We have to stop trying to validate Agile, whether it's Agile or not, in the instance of the company, with the process elements. Talking about roles or Scrum or Kanban or anything, or flow or bandwidth or efficiency. We have to meet the leaders where they are. We have to meet with their language. We have to talk about stuff that they give a shit about, right?
Talk about the difference you made in an organization without using Agile terms. If you really made a difference within an organization, you must be able to speak not about burn down charts or velocity or whatever. You have to be able to translate to, this is the change I made within the business. This is how we went from here to here, and here's the role that I played.
Entry music. Da, 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 da. It's the Bob and Josh Show.
Well, it's a welcome back to Bob, as he has returned from Germany, where he learned all the things. So you were at Agile Coach Camp, Bob?
Agile Coach Camp Cologne in Cologne, Germany. It was an open space. So it was one of those, coach camps that happen, distributed here in the States, in Europe. It's a mini, 2.5 days, something like that. Open space event. There was about 90 people there. They usually cap them at some, around 100 or so. So it was good. Peter Fischbach was my primary guide. Peter and I teach a master class, so it was nice to see him. I don't see him in face-to-face very often, so it was really nice to see him face-to-face. And a couple other guys. There were probably maybe 8 people or so that attended the master class from Europe, and so I got a chance to see them face-to-face as well.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those that could not make the trip, today's episode is going to be what Bob saw and heard and walked away with. So we're gonna dig inside Bob's brain, and we're gonna find out what he walked away scratching his head on, what he walked away with a little pep in his step. So those are the things that we're gonna talk about. We're gonna learn from the wise one, Mr. Galen.
Well, and we didn't prepare so much for this, so I'm going to take notes, Metacasters, a little bit for myself, or just to get some upcoming themes or whatever. So one theme that came out, not for me, there was a lot of Agile is dead running around the camp, and a lot of folks were looking for a more positive message, I think. So most of the folks there were Agile coaches, plus or minus, Scrum Masters, Agile coaches, Agile transformation folks. Probably half and half, half pretty experienced. No one as experienced as me. Yeah. Otherwise, they'd be dead.
Yeah, that was you beat me to it.
Exactly. I knew that would work. So sort of inexperienced, 0 or 1 to 5 years or so, and then half the folks had a lot of experience. But both sides of that had, there was a lot of Agile dead looking for rebuttal. And I actually did a session, I think, an open space session. I did 3 open space sessions over the course of the time. And one of them I tried to focus on, not directly that, but talking about the shift, some of the shift that coaches have to make. And I'm more optimistic. So there was a pessimistic, and AI was part of that discussion, right? AI is replacing our jobs. And there was an overwhelming cloud of people. And I'm just not, in fact, I went into one session, and this guy, I really struggled with this, and he drew this line on a flip chart. So he was leading the open space, and he's like, there's mission and vision up here, and then there's transformation, execution, team dynamics down here, and he basically was saying, you will never be, and it was a room of Scrum Masters, Josh, and coaches, mostly Scrum Masters and team coaches, and he's like, you will never be successful at a transformation by working down here. Which is where everyone worked, right? And he was absolute. You're wasting your frickin' time. You will be unsuccessful, right? You might as well go, I don't know, smoke a cigarette and have a scotch,
Right.
right? You got to, this is the place to be, and I challenged him on I mean, even if his thought was right, I'm like, that's a hell of a negative freaking like presentation, dude. And he's like, I know, right? It's like, right,
That's
right.
my. Yeah.
He had this like absolutism, and he's writing a book. Apparently, I found this out later. He's writing a book, and I guess this is the central thesis of the book. So no one buy it because you're going to cry, and then you'll not want to live beyond it. And I was arguing with him in the front of stuff, and I was trying to help him. Actually, I was trying to help him reframe terms so he wasn't so extreme and stuff. And it didn't depress me because I knew he was full of crap. But most of the people in there were really struggling with what he was saying.
Yeah.
And so there's this, so my session, I start talking like we have here in the Medicast. I think we have to make shifts, right? We have to make pivots. We have to make shifts. What got us here won't get us there. But at the same time, help people identify those shifts and make those shifts. And I think that's optimistic. It's like help people with making this shift. That was what my session was talking about. And then I think you can really challenge people. Like in one of my sessions, I was talking to folks. I'm like, you're going to have to coach leaders better. You're going to have to interact with the leaders. You're going to have to talk about your value proposition. You're going to have to prove and demonstrate and validate your value. And a lot of folks were uncomfortable with that. And it's like, well, then start working on that. Start working on skills, not just JIRA skills to communicate data, but smack your lip skills, be able to communicate with your mouth, and tell stories and things, and connect with leaders, and connect with them respectfully. So that was one part. The Agile is dead, thing.
Can I jump on a couple things there?
Absolutely.
I think what is dead is the free ride on Agile. Agile has become the norm. To me, if you step back, Agile won. Agile's the thing that everybody does. So if you look at it from that lens, that's a victory I think we should celebrate. It is no longer we are fighting for people to operate like this. People walk into projects and companies of this is how we're going to roll. That's a good thing. What has changed is that means not everybody needs a gaggle of scrum masters and agile coaches to get a team up and running because most people kind of already know how it works. Now, there's nuances, and that's the hard stuff that Bob is talking about it's not just how do we do JIRA, but how do we operate at both levels? So that person that you were talking about of, if you work down here, nothing's going to happen, but you have to win up here. And to me, the answer is not or, it's and. You have to operate at both levels, which is what I'm sure Bob kind of led with, is that you can't just operate at the team level, but you have to be comfortable having the conversations with the leaders to drive those fundamental and nuanced changes that make Agile really excel. So this Agile is dead thing is just flat wrong. What is dead is the gravy train of Agile, of teams are going to hire, a dozen Scrum Masters and need them forever. That's no longer the environment that we work in because we did our thing. And so now you have to Bob's point, you have to evolve and transition. And there's still work to do. It doesn't mean the work is gone. It's just the work is different. And it's not a layup type of work like for many people it used to be. So that's my read on the situation.
I agree. I think there was I did a workshop on after Peter and I did a workshop. We offered a workshop, like a 6-hour workshop after the camp, and maybe 10 people, not maybe 10 people came, And one of the things that we were doing there is doing some simulations about how do you have value conversations. We were doing role play simulations with some scenarios where people had to, sort of talk about their value for a large part of it was Peter and I were simulating execs and things. And one of the common denominators that came out of all of their presentations was there was a really senior coach there from Japan. Kiro was there. So there was a pretty experienced curve of people. The facilitator, the head facilitator or champion of the camp came, Michael, and but everyone was talking about in defending their or explaining their value. They were using Agile terms, and they were using Agile terminology. They were using things like process. We're going to implement a process. The teams will be happier. We'll have higher quality. But they didn't talk. None of them talked in terms that were like business focused. Right. None of them did that, and that was the exercise. Right? So what's dead, whether we like it or not. One of the things is that part of the shift that you were alluding to is we have to stop trying to validate Agile, whether it's Agile or not, in the instance of the company, with the process elements. Talking about roles or Scrum or Kanban or anything, or flow or bandwidth or efficiency. We have to meet the leaders where they are. We have to meet with their language. We have to talk about stuff that they give a shit about, right? And so it's 2026, Josh, in a room full of pretty damned experience. Oh, the other thing is a lot of these folks were trainers. So these folks are training Scrum and training product ownership. And they could not articulate without using the gobbledygook. And it was just so apparent. The other thing they couldn't do is they couldn't say me. They were also too team-centric. It was like they could explain, well, the team, we're evolving the team, and the team is getting better, and they're delivering, slices and things like that. But it's like but what did you do? Right? Yeah, the team rocked. Right? Yeah. What did you do? Right? What part did you play? And they just got stuck with that stuff. And that has to change in the future. That we have to be able to. There is a huge chasm, and Peter and I were talking about how can we, before this Metacast, you were saying how we need to what can we do to change it. There is a huge chasm in people's ability to articulate the value proposition of themselves and Agile ways of working. After 25 plus or minus years, that's got to change. And the audience in this case is stakeholders, right? Leaders and stakeholders. And I would just generally say we suck at it, and just erase those terms. Flow, Scrum, product owner, Scrum master, collaboration. Like most of you, I don't give a shit about it. I mean, I care about collaboration, but don't tell me that we're going to rock the marketplace by collaboration. Right? Don't tell me that we're going to deliver an app that's fantastic by we collaborated. Okay. what? And so I'll give you some. What do you got? Any reaction?
No, I agree with you. I think there was a shift probably 10 years ago towards outcome-based thinking and talking about the outcomes, and I think exceptional teams adopted that, and even good teams struggled to do that same thing, which is that there's always been a challenge with what's the business outcome that we achieve. And so many people, and this isn't just out of coaches, but product leaders and engineering teams struggled to connect the dots, and leaders struggled to really define what an outcome was, what a good one looked like and felt like. And so that's been a challenge for a while that I think helps create the problem that we're in with Agile, but to me is a broader challenge across the board. As we've talked about me having to become a product leader over the past 7 or 8
Right.
years now because of that, because that's the number one gap that we have. And to your point, you have to speak the language, you have to understand the business, because otherwise it's just, you do get to the point where a reasonably intelligent person on the other side of the table is like, why exactly am I paying for this? What am I getting out of it? And you have to be able to communicate that. So, okay, so there's that.
Real
challenge.
quickly. They talk outcomes. So there's output, outcomes, impact. Everyone in that room, they could run a session like that.
The buzzwords are said.
The buzzwords are said,
Yeah.
but they don't talk about the part it's the team. And there's a distinction. What part did you play? And when you ask them that, then it's like process and kumbaya and stand-ups and events and psychological. Oh my God, if I hear psychological safety one more time, I'm going to freaking explode, right? And it's all relevant, but you have to translate your value into business as well, right? What part did you pay to deliver that play, to deliver that feature, for Christ's sakes, right? And say something.
How did you help move the needle or the needles that the business cares about?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just making up needles. And look, I move these needles. Look, isn't that
I
great?
know.
Like,
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's and it's just shocking to hear this coming out of these people. I don't expect perfection,
Right.
But they weren't doing it at all. The other thing, real quick, is there's a team centricity, and I want to stop. Everything is about the team. So part of the phenomenon is they're there to represent the team. And so if a stakeholder comes to them, the language is always almost like, there's the team, then there's the coach or whoever, and there's leaders, and they're defending the team. And I want them to have the mindset of, you're actually now not coaching the team. To heck with the team. You're coaching the leader. Show up for the leader. And this team centricity mentality of downward mentality, you got to, and I think it's related to connecting to those leaders. You got to stop. Like, take your love and defensive posture that you have at a team, that insatiable desire you have to protect the team. And why don't you flip it around and say, I need to support that leader just as, sort of voraciously. And they don't get that. It's like they're adversarial.
Yeah, there's a lack of capability or lack of willingness or both to coach the entire system.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's really what's needed and what the organization needs. And that's how you ultimately win is, again, going back to the person that was leading the session of like, you can't win here, you have to operate here. He's wrong because you have to, the entire system is your job. Your job is that entire thing.
Exactly.
Which
What were
is
you going to
hard
say?
and scary and all of those things. So I was just trying to move us on to another topic or another thing that you walked away from, either fired up about or scratching your head saying, what the heck's going on out there?
I think the Agile is dead is one thing. This coaching phenomenon that we were talking about is another thing. I think a positive thing I came away from, I love our community. Part of what drives us, I think, is we have the Agile community at large. I integrate with it more than you do, but we both have. These are genuine people who want to make a difference.
Right.
These are hardworking, passionate, like salt of the earth people. They're not looking for easy buttons necessarily. But they are looking for. They're missing some things. But it just renewed I don't know. It was just nice to hang out with my peeps. Is something that I took away. Really great folks, and they're getting fired basically, or sort of transition. AI is disrupting them. Agile is disrupting them, etc. There's a lot of disruption out there, and my heart went out to the folks. I was trying to help them as much as I can. I think the previous discussion we had is a key discussion to not to survive, maybe to survive and thrive in this stuff. I think the fact that we've been downward focused creates a lot of vulnerability across a lot of people in the agile space, right? And some of them we have to start looking up and looking out. Other than that, I don't think there was anything else. I'm trying to.
What was the AI sentiment? Was it AI is replacing us? Was it, hey, AI's here, how do we leverage it? How do we do it? What was the sentiment there?
It was mostly leverage it. There was a couple sessions that people, like one guy, Paddy, I forget his last name, from Ireland. He ran a session where he was showing his tools. He was demoing tools that he had used in his coaching role. So not just Claude or ChatGPT, but he was leveraging some tools for activities and things like that, and integrating with his teams and communicating with his teams. And I know that was well attended. There was a little bit of a jump on the bandwagonness across everyone with AI. So I don't think very many people are like me are like me. They're not sticking their head in the sand. They're trying to get on board with it. There was a lot of comments about part of the resistance or part of the impediments were not being able to use some tools in the companies. So there was security concerns and cost concerns in the companies, where those were hurdles for folks that they had trouble overcoming. But there was interest in that, if anything. So I think I artificially brought up my silly AI plus HI. I still want people to develop. It goes back to communication, radical candor, being able to sell yourself, being able to communicate to the business. There's still human learning that needs to be done, not just about AI. You could use AI to help yourself learn and improve yourself. There wasn't anyone talking about that per se. So
yeah, as an agile coach, if you're really looking across the system and figuring out how do we optimize, how do we make this better, how do we get more efficient, how do we deliver more value to our customers, all of those things, I don't understand how AI interferes with that. It supports it. It helps you do those things, but I don't think it deletes your job. Was there any of that?
I mean, the thing is, Josh, and or we've talked about this, it's not, so Capital One, Facebook, X, or whatever, right? It's the layoffs, Amazon, right? So it's not necessarily me at a person, am I, sort of putting myself at jeopardy. It's the executive perception of AI, right? That's and agile jobs are on the chopping block right now, right? Capital One got rid of anyone with agile in their title, and that's so there's a lot of that out there. So they're feeling at risk. I was talking in one session about we need to start changing our titles and maybe reverting back to old titles. For example, if you're a Scrum Master, maybe look for management roles, and say if you think you have the chops to do that, look for management roles. That could be part of it, or look for project management roles, or look for release. But stop, calling yourself an Agile coach or a Scrum Master or a product owner in many contexts right now is cutting your head off.
Yeah.
But so emphasize skills over roles.
Don't be a label. And again, like this goes back to the outcomes that we talk about. Talk about the difference you made in an organization without using agile terms. If you really made a difference within an organization, you must be able to speak not about burn down charts or velocity or whatever. You have to be able to translate to
Yeah.
this is the change I made within the business. This is how we went from here to here, and here's the role
Correct.
that I played. And that will enable you to get whatever job is next. But if you keep framing it in an agile space, then you are going to paint yourself into a corner. And that corner is getting painted in because the industry has adopted agile ad nauseum and in mass. And the need for somebody to teach us how to do a thing we already kind of know how to do, the value's not there. But that doesn't mean... But that's only if you frame your value in an agile context, in a scrum master role or a product owner role. If you frame it in the difference you made within your organization, then whatever that next step is, you're going to be fine. But so many people, unfortunately, have sunk everything into the context of agile and scrum that it's hard for them to now lift up and look at the world through a different lens. And that's the challenge that I see.
Well, it's still this. I was talking to someone yesterday. I hadn't talked to in a while. Kind of a coaching conversation, a catch-up conversation, and he's looking for work. So he's been out of work for 5 or 6 months. Applied to however many jobs, not getting interviews. AI is screening him out, stuff, and it's just we have to be empathetic. You and I. It's the toughest market out there. So everything we're saying is correct. But it's also if you're out of work, or even if you're feeling,
I was there, right?
Yeah,
I had 0 customers, 0 income for 8 months. I get it. I was there. I understand completely. But what I had to recognize was that I need to change how I'm talking about myself. And I wasn't as agile centric as many people are, but I again had to realize I have to reframe how I present myself, and that is without a doubt a big challenge in trying to figure out exactly what companies want, because not everybody knows what they want.
Maybe that's a future future metacast for us, is to flip from leaders, and it's aligned with that, to talk about morale, staying the course, job searching, pivoting. Because it's mentally hard.
Yeah.
We use terms like resilience, but it's just really hard for folks. So I think that's the underlying thing out there. Even if you have a job, you're feeling like very, at risk, because you just don't know if the axe is going to come down. And then if that happens, it's going to be incredibly difficult for you to translate. Now, bringing it back to Agile, the coaching disruption, the skills disruption, is 10 times more, right, for those folks. The other thing before this Metacaster is Josh and I were talking. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it is. But Josh and I are not wired this way. But a lot of those folks won't. So now everything's pivoting. You know what's happening. People are giving you advice, but you take no action. You maybe you're frozen. I don't know what it is. But Josh and I offer help all the time, and we're there for people, and folks don't reach out. So I'm not even offering that now. What I'm saying is there's a phenomenon. I don't know if it's overwhelm. I don't know if it's a lack of confidence. If it's just frozen fear, some combination of things, and easy button mode, easy button syndrome. But this is not for the faint-hearted right now, and you gotta do what Josh has been. Josh is, a walking example of walking through that and staying, close to his values and staying the course.
Yeah, we've done episodes where we've talked about doing the hard part of that and the amount of people that are willing to help. And as I was going through my journey in that 8 months to figure out how I could land somewhere to support myself and to support my family, Bob and I talked about reinvesting in networking and connecting with people, because as our careers have proven, every job except for the first one for me and maybe one or two of Bob's, every job was because of a connection we had and the network that we had built, that we had worked on, that didn't just happen. We invested in making that. And that is one of those gaps that we're seeing. And LinkedIn, with the easy apply and all that stuff, makes it easy to push the buttons and feel like you're getting that closer. But the tried and true historical methods of networking and talking to people and asking for help and getting help and providing help and supporting each other is a thing that we've seen worked for me personally. And I know that we have supported that approach as well.
So I think I'm trying to think of it. Was there any other themes? There were some. Of course, there's always tactical themes of running retros and sort of using some tool sets and frameworks and things like that. I think there was a safe. I didn't. I was on the outside supporting it, trying to get many people in there, but there was like a safe session. So there was the traditional sessions. I talked to some people in the hallway. There was a coach, Uda, and we were talking about like trauma, and had a really interesting, we were talking about company trauma and personal trauma and how to coach through trauma in organizations. And I think that's I was really intrigued as I was thinking about, multi-level trauma. And I think that's going to be something. There's a layoff trauma, right? Sexual harassment trauma that's going on in the companies, age discrimination trauma, Trump trauma. Did I say that out loud? Or whatever, but lots of
gas price trauma.
Gas price, exactly, exactly. So, and coaching, helping folks coach through that. So that was an interesting hallway conversation. Like I said, I met people that like 8 years ago, I did some coaching sessions with them, and then they would come up, and it was like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in a while. And so it was sort of like a homecoming a little bit for me with some people in Europe.
Yeah,
so I'll leave it at that. I don't know if there was anything else. Any other questions?
No, I resonate with the trauma, right? I've had some personal and career trauma in the past few years, and I certainly get that, right? I am constantly coaching myself because I'm looking over my shoulder. And I feel like I'm like, what's next? What's happening? And so I resonate with people that are out there. But the best thing I can say is you have to pick yourself up. You have to move yourself forward, and that's on you. And those are discussions I have with myself every day. So I encourage everybody that is wrestling with that, struggling with that there's help out there. There's lots of people that can help, but also you got to show up, you got to put the work in, you got to do your thing, you got to dig yourself out, and it's hard and it's not fun, but every day makes it a little bit better.
I will say this, Josh. I think I got these little kudo cards that people were handing me, or handing everyone there. They had these cards that people would put personal notes, and a lot of them were saying, you're a positive inspiration, and I think maybe that's something that's missing out there, and so I'll leave this talk, Metacasters. Josh and I may grouse, I may grumble, I may whine and complain. But at the end of the day, I think I'm an optimist in many cases, and so is Josh. If we're challenged with something, I'll complain about it first, but then it's like, this is what we could do about it. And it's like how to dig yourself out. I don't know if folks are seeing that inspiration. I think a lot of the folks at the camp were just lost, and they were just underwater with negativity. And I try to inspire people. And hopefully, Metacasters, this episode and going back, Josh and I, we're bringing a can-do attitude. This is the reality, but these are some things that you can do about it. Hopefully, we inspire you. Hopefully, go back and listen to an episode again and again, not for the content, but for the attitude. For the attitude, for the posture, for the leaning in posture, right? Josh had 8 months of real struggle, right? But what you saw was someone who was, he had hard days, but someone who was then reframing, stepping forward, and trying to do things. And the other part of it is help each other out, inspire each other. out there. We need partners. We need cohorts. I think Josh and I do this for each other. So be an inspiration, Metacasters. All right, the world needs it in our space. There's a lot of change out there. From beautiful downtown Cary, North Carolina.
In beautiful downtown Fuquay Arena, North Carolina.
I'm Bob, the Inspirator Galen.
And I'm Josh, the Optimist Anderson.
Yeah, baby. Shake
and
and bake. Take care, y'all. The